Martin Show. Let me just start out with a little verse. The road is long. The road is hard. That is why they call it the road. Just back from the road, I might add. Glad to be with you tonight on the program, Monday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. Coming up momentarily, we'll have our troops. That would be not Ben Troop. It would be Kevin Brockway, one of the most knowledgeable guys around, to catch up on things, all things Gators, including the baseball, the softball, and a basketball dynasty. I'm just saying, could be. Kevin will join us, and then we'll be able to hook up with Franz Beard and talk with him about things going on here. We'll give you the baseball pairings. What do you think? Here's the question tonight. You'll see there is, which team will go the farthest? I always want to say the furthest, but it's farthest, isn't it? Which team will go the farthest? The softball team, which is higher seeded, or the baseball team, which has been on a tear? Good question. Which team will it be? Well, let's start the show. We got you tonight. I'll be back with you. And Kevin Brockway is coming up next, right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors. We're live now.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Just back from a 300-mile trip. Seems like it's longer. From Ocala to Panama City. And always glad to make it in safely. And it's always tough on a turnaround day when you got to come back and jump in after being gone. We were in Ocala for 4 or 5 days, catching up with the business and friends. Great to be with Carlton Reese. That's my wife is making me some ice water you hear in the background. It's okay. I need it. And Carlton is working on a couple of great projects. I showed you his magazine last night he's coming out with. And then he's working on a book with Franz Beard. We'll talk about that. And I just want to share a few thoughts with you. We're going to bring Kevin right aboard here. I just want to say, you heard that little ditty I just said, the road's long, the road's hard. That's why I called it the road. That was something I wrote with Rick Riley back in Albuquerque when we were so beaten up and tired and worn down. You got to be able to take the road when you're a sports writer because it's long and it's winding and it's short. Here's a couple of thoughts as I bring in Kevin. Here's my observations from the road. Flatbed trucks. Remember flatbed trucks? After driving behind them down I-10 and I-75 numerous times, I've noticed they are not flatbed. They're humpback. They now have on their loads they carry. If you're looking from the back, it's a hump. I don't know what that is. Somebody can tell me about that. We have a lot of smart people here. And then that's one thing. And then the other thing, I have a question. You heard that old cliche about watching people work when they work for the city or the state or the county. There's usually 4 or 5 people standing around with shovels telling people what to do. Why is it that there are about 10 white state trucks in the middle of I-10, just arbitrarily, with the road blocked off? They all meet there. It looks like they're having lunch. I don't know. Reminds me of the old cliche about the fact that, again, 4 people watching 2 guys do the work. Just a couple of thoughts today before I get into a thought-provoking program. And I want to just leave you with this. My friend Emily, a very bright young woman, is taking a course in computer programming. Well, that takes a lot, trying to learn HTML5, JavaScript, and all that programming now. Okay, she's going back to college to do this, and so she's learning JavaScript, etc. She said she realized by the time she graduates, AI will have changed everything. So what's the use of taking this now? It's going to be different. And she says, by the time I graduate, says Emily, AI will probably be a BS. You get it? It's going fast. I don't know. I'm not that good at it. Maybe this guy is. He knows a lot of stuff. He's always on the road doing something, writes great stuff for the Gainesville Sun and for Gannett. And, of course, he's been around the horn a few times. Not the program, just the business. Kevin Brockway. What's up, Kev?
Well, buddy, you and I have something in common. Neither of us were invited to Destin for spring meetings, but a lot of interesting stuff coming out of there, right? With
I did not. It's just down the road for me, only an hour and a half up here, but I didn't make it. But here's my problem. I'm going to just be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes those meetings and these programs become a bunch of policy walks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of policy. I would like to see something on the field, okay? And you and I are we're longtime observers, me especially, and you've done it very well for a long time, of the game, the players, the joy of seeing things happen before your eyes, which is why this basketball team would always be so great. It was the spontaneity on the spot. We watched them before our very eyes. They became national champions. I doubt you'll ever cover a more team that'll be more fun than that one was.
Well, the 0607 Noah Horford Brewer, that was a fun bunch, and that was a group that really enjoyed the spotlight. But I think I saw a lot of similarities, in that 25 group in terms of them, the camaraderie and how they cared about one another. And there's something to be said for that. And I remember back at the time in 06 and 07, I was maybe younger and more cynical and thought that to be hokey. But I think you learn over time as you observe. I think the teams, you have to have talent, but you also have to have guys, the chemistry, guys that like each other. It's real because it shows up on the court in so many different instances. And even the 2014 Final Four team, I thought had that as well. And it's going to be interesting because, obviously the big news of the week, right, buddy? Alex Condon coming back. So you've got him, you got Tommy House, even Chinyelu back, but you got two new guys in the backcourt, Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland. And I think the big question is going to be how that's all going to piece together and all going to fit. And AJ Browne, obviously the shooting guard as well.
I want to get into that a lot here in a minute. Franz will join us a little bit later on about this basketball team and what has happened before our very eyes. Can it be? Are we seeing? I mean, they're going to have to be a top five, maybe the number one pick the preseason. We'll see. But all this stuff and the pieces are coming back. We'll talk about things like the front court, the back court, what's the boogeyman like, what we expect. And you and Franz know as much basketball as any two people I know. And I want to get into that a little bit with you. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the softball and the baseball team, all right? By the way, first of all, happy birthday to Tim Tebow's hero, Danny Werfel. And this sheriff, this is yours right here. That's yours. The sheriff came to my house.
Speaking of Destin, another Fort Walton Beach guy, buddy, right? Danny Werfel, yeah.
Yes, Fort Walton Beach, that's right. And as I got the sheriff of Bay County here with me, he's going to arrest me. Tommy Ford. Say hi, Tommy, to my friend Kevin. Here's Tommy.
What's up, Gator Bait?
He's got a hat.
What's going on? How are you?
Shoe man. I got a hat on him.
What's the latest in Panama City Beach? I guess they closed down Club La Vila, right? There's not much going on there. So
he's a Bay County guy, by the way.
I'd only wear that for my stepdaddy.
Well, I won't make you wear it in public. All right. Thank you, Tommy. So there's Fort Walton Beach, another guy. All right, so let me get to a couple of subjects I want to get bear down on. And by the way, feel free to jump in with your thoughts. I don't necessarily mean to orchestrate everything. I just want to get a couple of topics off my mind.
Sure.
I heard, and we'll talk about this later, a Texas writer say today. Now think about this. And by the way, it is a little annoying. I'm sick and tired. I saw a parade of Texas people, the athletic director, and all these other people who today in Destin talk about the great state of Texas and the great University of Texas. And look, we know about their programs, and I'm telling you, I wanted to throw up after a couple of them. I'm thinking, you ain't the only one's got that. We look down at Gainesville. There's a few of those things in Gainesville, but like everything else, is bigger and better in Texas. The question, this comment was made, a couple of respected sports writers, Feinbaum, I can't remember their names. I don't know those Texas guys. It's just like you should. But here, I heard him say, and this is something to think about. He says Arch Manning could turn out to be the greatest quarterback of all time. He's got everything. He's got speed. He's got a rifle arm. He's strong. He's fast. And now, there's maybe something to that. But there's only one thing. He ain't on the field yet,
Yeah.
So you do have to get on the field. And I don't try to dismiss him as a talent. He's he's got the right breeding. He's got it all. So just chew on that one for a second.
If you were that good, how come you didn't beat out Quinn Ewers?
Well, and he had the greatest coach in America, supposedly, in Steve Sarkisian. So there you go. How did Quinn Ewers work out? He didn't get drafted. So there you go. Somebody got it wrong, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I think Arch so far has shown like a little bit of mobility, obviously.
Oh yeah, he's fast. He's very fast. He's strong.
Let's see what he does with the arm strength and under pressure and so forth and everything. And let's see the whole pass package when he faces SEC defenses. We already know what DJ Lagway can do. He already showed it the second half of the season that he can handle playing in the SEC.
I was going to save this till later, and we'll bring it back. But there's Joe Klatt, who I do respect. He knows football.
Yeah.
I'll say that. He had his quarterbacks listed today. Let's see if I can make this work. Hold on a second. And he listed, he didn't even have Arch Manning as number one, but here's his list. Okay, let's talk about him. Go down France and break it down. Clemson's quarterback, that's why they're getting so much run, Klubnik. I don't know a lot about him. I didn't see him play a lot, but Arch Manning is two there. And then John Latier. I don't even know who he is.
Utah,
yeah. I mean, but I don't know anything about him. Sam Levitt, Drew Alar. Now, Garrett Nussmeier, I do agree, and DJ Lagway 7. Now, I've seen Lagway as high as 4. And at least he has a body of work, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, Lenore Sellers is a pretty talented guy, too, at South Carolina, right? Actually beat out Lagway for freshman of the year, although he's a redshirt freshman. You got Carson Beck down there at Miami, obviously, that he'll have a pretty good offensive line to protect him. I don't know if they have the receivers down there, though. But, he didn't have great receivers at Georgia either his last year there. So I think it's an interesting list, buddy. And Drew Alar, I mean, is a little bit of an enigma because, he had a chance to do it against Notre Dame and he couldn't get it done. So, him being at 5, I wonder. And I'm not a huge Nussmeier guy. I don't think he's that great. Now, I know Brian Kelly was talking about this year. He feels like he has the best team, yada, yada. But I could move Lagway ahead of both Alar and Nussmeier on that list. And I would be fine with him in the top 5 there.
Yeah, I'm with you on what you said about those guys, and I do respect Nussmeier simply because he's done it. His body of work's impressive. He's smart. He knows a lot about the game. He reads defenses well. He throws the ball very well. But I get to a point where I've heard Brian Kelly till I'm sick of my stomach. He's today saying, this is it for us. We got our guys. Okay, Brian, what's his record there, by the way? He's won about 33%. He won 60% of his, whatever. It ain't what it ought to be. So we'll see about all that. And then there's Billy, which we're going to talk about. And let me go ahead and do the commercial right now, if I may. My friends at Meldon Law, bunch of good dudes over there, by the way, and dudeses. And I want to say, if you need any legal help, I strongly encourage you, and I've done this, and my friends have done this, to get in touch with Meldon Law. They're located in 4 cities there. Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City, Williston, and ask their opinions. Even if it's another lawsuit you have pending, you can't get any movement on it. Second opinions are common in medicine. If you have a lawsuit that's not moving, they can help you on that. Or if you don't know where to go, just say, I have this thing that's happening to me. I don't know who to see about it. If they can't do it or don't feel like they're the best, they'll recommend somebody to you. So, and of course, we know how committed they are to University of Florida as the only official law firm associated with the University of Florida. Check them out. Belden Law. I'll have Jeffrey on here soon. We'll talk more about his exciting basketball season. He was thrilled. Belden Law. They won't back down. All right. Let me throw it over to you. You want to talk baseball, softball? What's your topic? What have you been writing about this week?
Well, we have Noah Ram at the Women's College World Series. He's going to do a bang-up job there for softball, and they obviously open against Texas. And then baseball, they're going to be in Conway, South Carolina. They couldn't get the host for the regional.
Yeah.
But I wrote something on Aiden King, who I think is going to be really one of the keys to the postseason for Florida baseball. I mean, this kid is really coming on, as you know, 13.
I'm a big Aiden King fan.
Yes. Yeah. You look at it, the last 13 to 30, he's only allowed one earned run. He's working both sides of the plate really well. And I think he's going to be the Saturday guy. I think they'll probably go with Peterson on Friday. They haven't set the rotation yet, but if I were to guess and put money on it, I would have, O'Sullivan will probably go with Liam Peterson on Friday against East Carolina.
I'm guessing.
And save King for that Saturday game against Coastal if they beat East Carolina. And that's going to be
a strong bullpen now, too.
That's going to be the huge game in that series, and you've got Jake Clemente closing, obviously, which is totally stabilized kind of the back end of the games now.
Yeah.
And they can hold leads much better than they have in the past, buddy. But we'll see also if, Colby Shelton comes back, and I think that's going to solidify the infield a little bit, because if you remember in that SEC tournament game against Ole Miss, that error at third base with Landon Stripling playing there, which is not necessarily his natural position, really hurt him there. But so if you get Shelton back at shortstop, you move Bobby Bozier to third base, you've got, your infield back in terms of the infield defense, which is going to make things a lot more stable there. So it should be an interesting weekend. I mean, they're a 2 seed, but I think the region set up really well for them. And then, the opposite side, if you get Auburn, they didn't see Auburn during the regular season. But that's a 4 or 5 hour drive. That's not a terrible travel situation if you go up to Auburn for the super regionals, and against a team that, listen, they were, obviously one of the better teams in the SEC, but so was Alabama, and Florida took 2 or 3 from them. So was, Texas, and Florida took 2 or 3 from them. So, and all you have to do is take 2 or 3 if you get to the super regional stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I don't know, say it's a weak regional, but let's face it, the teams they got to play aren't that great. And I think Florida's better than all those teams. And I think they can, go win that region. And if their pitching holds up, how about the bats, Kevin? They're going to start coming to life again?
Yeah, no, I think so, buddy. And I think it's a good lineup up and down in terms of, the issue is you don't have that fearsome slugger that you've had the last couple of years in Caglione and Wyatt Langford. Brody Donay might be like the closest thing to it.
Yeah.
But he's got some holes in his swing. I mean, I think losing Luke Heyman really hurt, because that made the middle of the order
the best catcher in baseball, right?
A little more formidable. Plus his defense behind the plate.
Yeah.
Even his
way he ran the game was great.
Yeah. But his presence in the lineup too. I mean, he's a double-digit homer guy, and a guy that had a lot of clutch hits in Texas series too. Had a good approach and was really the second half of the season coming on. So not just behind the plate, but the bat too with Luke Heyman, takes another slugger out of the lineup. But I still think they have length, and they've got, certainly guys, Hayden Yost is coming on. Brendan Lawson is another guy, a freshman, who has tailed off a little bit in terms of, maybe hitting a little bit of a freshman wall. But if he can get back going a little bit, that would help this lineup tremendously as well.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to somebody who's been helping us a lot. Eddie Gilly. He's there in the games. I've been there a number of years. Been doing some freelance baseball pieces for us. He'd been around for a long. He evaluated the whole regional, talked about the fact that they didn't really know where they were going to go until the selection show. They wound up going to Conway, South Carolina, home of the national 12. I thought they were 13. It's 12 seed. Carolina Chanticleers, or Chance for short.
Yeah.
Their Florida first opponent is, I guess it's Friday at noon Eastern time, I suppose.
Yep.
East Carolina Pirates. And East Carolina is not exactly a world beater. Their conference record was 13-4. Conference record, okay, in that league. But they won the AAC championship with a record of 33-25 overall. So they needed to win the tournament to get in. They did it, but there's 66 RPI wins over Virginia Tech, Coastal Carolina, FAU, NC State, USF. They lost to UNC three times actually, to Coastal 2, to Duke, and to USF twice in the regular season. So ECU is a beatable team. And then, as you say, they might have run into a familiar face later on down the line. Looks like they may have to beat the Chanticleers twice to win the whole thing.
Yeah, and that's a smaller ballpark too, which could play well for some of Florida's power hitters. I think that that's going to be interesting as well, and to see how they handle that. But Coastal's got a good ball club. They're a national team for a reason.
Yeah.
You've got to respect them, because you see the name and you think smaller conference. They're not one of the power conference teams, but they've got good tradition and good history there. And
they do that.
They knocked Florida out of the College World Series, I think, about a decade ago. I remember, as I recall, and that was a pretty good Florida team that went in there. So they're going to be, they'll have their home crowd there. They'll be primed up. It's about a 6-hour drive from here, from Gainesville, for the local fans. It'll be interesting to see how they turn out and if they can show up.
Yeah. Well, it's not a bit like being on the West Coast. Boy, basketball sure was a lot of bouncing around. That's for sure. I can't wait to talk to you about this front court with all these guys, you and France, when he gets on. And then if I ask you the question, Florida has softball has the higher seed. Baseball is in a bigger run. If I said to you, which team is going to go the farthest, who would you say?
I would say softball. Yeah, I would say. Because, softball's already there.
They're going to OKC.
And they're in OKC. They're already there. So they're, Florida has to get to Omaha. And I wouldn't call that a slam dunk, even though I think they're coming on. I think they're playing a little better. But, it's still going to be a tough road because you're going to be going on the road twice. I know they did it last year, but they had that otherworldly slugger and Jack Caglione, who, by the way, if you're watching, buddy, it's just tearing it up in Triple A. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before
on social media every day.
Yeah.
Straight home run, 4 games, home runs, and giant home runs.
Exactly, because
400 feet. You kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. And they're tearing up.
Oh, Kansas City, is this working? Hello.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Call them up.
But so KC is. And by the way, your buddy Woody Page, who has been relentless. I don't know if you know on X.
Oh yeah, he's
the Rockies. He's just tearing them apart.
Oh,
and for the Rockies at the number 4 position in the draft that year, to take Charlie Condon ahead of Jack Caglione was another
a mile high
example. Like Caglione would hit 50 homers in that park. It would have been, like I said, forget about it. And you take Charlie Condon, who's okay, but he's more of a gap hitter. Instead of taking Jack Caglione, who would have, he would have, and would have been a draw, would have brought fans there. It would have been like back to the Blake Street Bombers there.
Right.
There's a reason why the Rockies are the Rockies now, and why your guy Woody Page has been relentless towards the Monsters.
Last show last week, he's done with that now, and I had him on the show last week. He and I campaigned to get that team when I was in Denver. We were dying of Major League Baseball, and they got a guy that why they're keeping a team, they won't sell it. The Munfords, they bought all the property around the downtown area when they built the ballpark. So they're making money, millions off of it. They'll have no incentive to win. They're making so much. They're not going to sell it. So, hey, let me give you some names here. and I want friends to listen to these names: Ruben Chinelu, Micah Angloden, Thomas Hoff, Victor. Is it Mikey? Is that how you say it?
Victor
And
Michik, yeah.
Michik. My gosh, what a front court! All of a sudden, you add in the front court guys and the back court guys. I mean, this team. I got to say, if they're not 1 or 2 in the preseason, I'd be hardly disappointed and shocked. And I bet this guy wouldn't be too, right, Fransberg?
Well, I think they're going to be right up there, particularly today since Houston got its number 1 transfer, Pop Isaacs, backed out of Houston and went ahead and signed with Texas A&M. And he was a scorer, averaged about 16, 17 points a game at Creighton last year. And they were really, really counting on him to pick up where Cryer left off. They've got Tuggle's coming back, and they've got Sharp's coming back, and I think Uzan
coming back, friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got 3 guys coming back, but they were really counting on this guy to be the scorer to make up for what they lost with Cryer. And he decided today that he's going to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M it's been kind of interesting what they've done in the transfer portal. Of course, I look at some of these teams, Kevin, and so many of these teams have grabbed too many guys in the portal. I question, for example, Kentucky's got all these guys in the portal, and I wonder how are they going to mesh with so many guys in the portal and nobody coming back.
Exactly. Yeah, the continuity of it all. I agree with you there. Mackenzie Mabako also, Indiana Hoosiers, going to Texas A&M too. I saw that. Right, Bucky McMillan, and it's going to be a new era there. But I think that your point is well taken, Franz. It's just a hodgepodge. I mean, I've often said this, Franz. I think, and Buddy, I've mentioned this before, maybe on your show, how I refer to Florida basketball as a Rodney Dangerfield of basketball programs in no respect.
Yeah.
The fact that number 6 I saw in CBS Sports, and they had Houston 2 because Uzan came back and St. John's 1. I know, and I know you have Rick Pitino and he's a Hall of Fame coach, but you've got all transfers there too. So at least Florida's got a little bit of continuity going into this thing next year. I can't see why, with that coming back, and I mentioned this before, friends. I'm fascinated to see Tommy Houck play the wing next year. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see if he can guard out there, but if he can do it, you got a 6'9" guy, as a wing that can shoot and that can pass and do things, and maybe play him a little bit in the
learned a lot. He's learned a lot.
Golden can do a lot with this squad.
And he's learned a lot more, he said, now from the NBA. So and this is going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about it. I don't think people understand that. You guys are the basketball experts, but I don't know when I've seen a bunch of guys who were as big and tall as coordinated, who ran the floor so well, who handled the basketball, passed the basketball, played offense or defense. I mean, sometimes the defense is lacking. But the talent level of these guys, all 6'9", 6'10", whatever they are, I mean, they're amazing. It's an incredibly talented bunch of guys.
I think that Florida has a coach who understands roster building. And this is going to be a good year. This is going to be a really good year. The year that's going to really, really be questionable is next year, because next year he's got because Han Longton's going to go, Condon's going to go, Chinyalu's going to go, Hawk is going to go. You're going to lose those 4 big guys. So he's going to have to either get high school kids, which I don't know. I like this. I think you got to get a guy these days and times that's a developmental guy for a high school guy, and then you go get a guy that has proven something in the portal. But you got to, I don't think you could go too deep in the portal, which is what the point I was making earlier about, for example, Kentucky. Louisville is another one that's gone deep into the portal. Everybody's talking about how great they're going to be next year. They don't have any inside guys, and all they did was go in the portal and get a bunch of guys who can play on the perimeter. Now, how many basketballs do you have out there? And I look at stuff like that, and I think to myself, Florida's the most stable team in the SEC right now. You lost 3 guys to the draft. You lose a guy that Kublikas, who did not play. You lose Aberdeen. Aberdeen did play, but Aberdeen, the more I'm hearing about what happened with Aberdeen, the more I'm convinced that they wanted a bunch of money because they're bringing in Xavier Lee, and they wanted the money they were giving Xavier Lee. They wanted equal amounts, and Florida basically said, "This is your offer," and his dad basically said, "We want more," and they said, "Well, fine, go find it someplace else." I don't know about you, Kevin, but I'm not convinced he was going to be the guy at the point anyway. I think he's too much of a combo guy. I think he did.
I agree there. And, I wrote that column last month. That's kind of the unfortunate byproduct of where we are today, right? In college sports with, and even before the rev share in terms of, with, the collectives and so forth, that it has to come to that for a guy like that, where you get into bidding wars and stuff. But this is where we are. And I think it worked out for Florida because not only Xavier Lee, but then you turn around and you get Boogie Fland, who is talented, a more talented player than Denzel Aberdeen. And Denzel, look, he developed. He's a hardworking kid. Torian Green loved him, I know. And maybe he'll blossom in Kentucky, and maybe that experience will show there a little bit. But Boogie Fland, has a chance to be a pretty special guy if his head's on straight. I know they're gonna work a lot, right, Franz, on his body, the strength and conditioning, because he got banged around a little bit and he had the thumb injury. And talking to his high school coach, he talked a lot about Tony Massilloni. He talked a lot about how that thumb really affected him, and it really affected his shooting as well, even before he went down. So getting that healed and healthy and getting a little stronger, I think, is going to suit him well. But certainly a quick guard and someone that will probably benefit a lot going to the basket from those Ruben Chiniello seals that were so effective for Walter Clayton and company last year.
I think he's going to play next year at about 185 or so. I think that would be. He played this past year, as I understand it, about 172, 173. So I think 12 pounds would not affect his quickness, but would certainly give him the strength that he needs. And let's face it, Walter Clayton Jr., when he came to Florida, was maybe mid 180s, and he played this past year at about 202, 203. A lot of different, the ability to get banged around and finish through contact. That's where the strength plays off. It's kind of like this year with Tommy Hawk. If you go back and you watch what happened with the Williamson kid backing him down there at San Francisco, and the Williamson kid just kept backing him down, and he's a guy that you saw that and you think, well, he really probably needs to play out on the wing a little bit. But the other thing you saw is here's a guy that's 215, probably needs to play 225, 228. Condon, you saw him also against Auburn in that second game. The first game, he had a great game, but the second game, the Final Four game, he kind of got shoved around a bit. And he's a guy, 232, 240, 245. These guys, we forget they're kids, and they're still growing, and their bodies aren't filled out. They're adults and able to vote and able to go get a beer, but their bodies aren't exactly adults. I mean, they need to they need to go to Bud Light's personal trainer
There you go,
and figure these things out.
Yeah. By the way, I mentioned before, I got my players mixed up. I got awed by YouTube basketball experts talking about Tommy Huff. It was Alex Condon.
Yes.
Came back from the NBA and said he worked on a bunch of things that he thinks will make him a better player, like his shot, among other things. So, I mean, that was a huge. Alex Condon was the final piece of what I think would be. If you want to talk about, use a D word. I know it's too early to start thinking about it, but dare we think about how good they could be, and if they were as good as they were this year, are we talking possible dynasty here?
Well, dynasties have to start somewhere. Billy, everybody thought Billy had the dynasty going. And, if he lands Patrick Patterson in that 2008 class, it might have been. It might have been. You put Patrick Patterson and Maurice Spates together with you would have had Tyus and Chandler Parsons in there. And Calathis, who by the way, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Rick Pitino was asked, who's the greatest passer he has ever seen? And he says, hands down, it's Nick Calathis. Yes. He says the greatest passer he has ever seen, college or pro, NBA, international, wherever.
I remember, Buddy, the first time in France, the first time I saw Nick Calathis at, back when they used to have the AU championships at Disney in Orlando. And the first time I saw him play, and between the passing and the rebounding, I said, this is like a Jason Kidd type player. That's what he was, because he could just fill up a stat sheet that way. And it just didn't work out for him at Florida in terms of the winning. But, still, I think he had 230 assists in 2 years, which was the season records in terms of his passing, phenomenal, and had a cup of coffee with the Memphis Grizzlies. But yeah, Franz, we've talked about this too. If Nick Calathis had stayed for all 4 years, probably that senior year with him and Chandler and Tyus, they would have gotten past Butler and won a national championship that year. Yeah,
Vern Macklin, yeah. I mean that team would have really, really, really been special. But you look at that, and yet at the same time, when Nick left, Chandler no longer had the ability to say, well, Nick will do it. Chandler grew up. Chandler Parsons went from a 6'9" kid into a 6'10" man by the time he left. And Lord have mercy, if he hadn't gotten injured in the NBA, he would have had a phenomenal career.
You remember Billy played Parsons, especially his junior year at the point. 6'9" guy, he was running offense, and I think you could do possibly something similar with Houck as a point forward type. He's got those kind of skills, the passing, the dribbling, the ball handling, where you could play him, play the offense through him a little bit the way they did Chandler decades ago.
Guys, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Are we a basketball school now? Because the last 20 minutes, all we talked about is basketball. We have a softball team that's going to go to the World Series, a baseball team that's on fire, a football team that won its last 4 games, and here we're talking basketball for 20 minutes. And that's okay if that's what it is. I'm just saying. There was some other news today, too, by the way.
Well, I mean, Condon is the big news pick, one of the big news picks.
Oh, that was a big story.
I think that's partly why.
I understand. I'm with you on that, and I get it. But I think Florida got their running back today, right? Got him back. It's unconfirmed, but the kid who was suspended with the creatine running back,
the cornerback, Dijon.
I mean, cornerback, yeah. I read somewhere, it's unconfirmed, but he's back with the team. We still don't know the results of the test on it. And I know, Kevin, you last time questioned that veracity of whether or not that was creatine or whatever it was. Have you heard any more about it, Kevin?
I don't think it's not creatine. I mean, who is putting that out there?
I don't know what it is. It
was
whatever it is. He didn't get kicked off the team.
You didn't get kicked off the team. Good. Well, I mean, listen, it's gonna work itself out in the legal system, whatever it is. And I'm sure that the wheels of justice will spin, the charges will be reduced, and he will be on the team. That's my assumption or my on the matter.
I just want to know if there's anything else to report there. And he's a heck of a good player, apparently. I remember him a little bit last year.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. Him and Cormani McLean, who had a pretty good spring too. I think they're going to battle for that second cornerback job. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Dijon's going to get a starting job back, especially with this little incident hanging over his head.
Yeah. I really believe that Billy. I think Billy's sticking his neck out for a kid and and again, as Kevin just said, the wheels of justice are going to turn. And this is the first time I've seen Billy really stick his neck out for a kid. Of course, we haven't seen too many kids who've been arrested or anything like this. But just the same, there have been kids who we thought probably should have been gone, and he stuck his neck out. A couple years ago, everybody said Damian George needed to go. And you look at what happened the last 4 or 5 ball games last year. He blocked so well that Pro Football Focus says he's one of the better guards in the country that's coming back. So Billy has stuck his neck out in other ways for guys. But this time is the first time he's really stuck his neck out for a kid that was in trouble. And it's going to be interesting.
Mekhi Barrow, too, had the traffic incident in Georgia. And he's probably going to be the starting nose guard next season.
Yeah. And that's another one. But it's been really rare that he's stuck his neck out for a kid. And I don't know whether it's a case of he's told the kid, fine, you're going to be running stadiums every morning for the next 3 months, or that the kid just came and said, Coach, you didn't do it. And Billy says, fine, we'll see how justice prevails. I have to, buddy, I've got to wonder about all this. We've seen too many times over the years that coaches have stuck their neck out for somebody, or they've covered things up. There's a lot of people say that, for example, that there was a lot of cover up with Aaron Hernandez when he was here. That part I don't know. I've heard the stories.
Let me comment on that for a second, because I have a little information there, and I have in my person a legal document that nobody else has seen, that I have seen. I have in my possession by someone friends. So I think there's no doubt about the fact that Aaron Hernandez went off the deep end. And I understand, and I don't excuse anything he did. But 2 things did happen. This I know. He unfortunately got drafted with the Patriots and went back home, where all the trouble awaited him. And I know they tried diligently. First of all, I wasn't told this by Urban. Urban didn't want to recruit him. Steve Adazio talked him into taking him. And he was a great player, without a doubt. Maybe the greatest tight end Florida ever had. When we get right down to look at the numbers. Because of his ability to block and catch the ball and run, whatever. But when Fran's story is that when he first came there, Urban had him in his office, morning Bible studies, et cetera, giving him all the time he could. And he really assigned him to the Pouncey brothers. The Pouncey, if you remember, escorted him everywhere. And to keep him, but unfortunately, and now this is what's come out since then, the CTE was apparently rampant with this kid. He had all kinds of brain issues and problems. So I don't know. That's way beyond my expertise.
Yeah. No, my point in bringing him up was that he was here, and I hear all this stuff, but all I can tell you is when he was in front of us, and Kevin will tell you this, he was polite. He was fun. He was funny. He always had a smile, and he had something. If somebody asked him a question, his right eyebrow would go like this, and there were a couple. I can't remember their names. There were a couple of reporters there that had this bad habit of asking really dumb questions, and they'd ask a question of him, and his eyeballs would just go back in his head. So he was a funny kid, and I don't know if he was in trouble here or what. I don't know those answers. What I can tell you though is that coaches go out on a limb for guys, and and Urban, for example, when my friend Avery Atkins died, Urban, I think, from that point on, took chances with kids that he didn't take otherwise, because he felt personally, I think Urban felt personally responsible for Avery leaving Florida and eventually getting in with the wrong kids and dying.
And as Shelley told him, we can't save them all. And she's a psychiatric nurse.
Buddy, also, you talk about the influences back in Bristol. I'm sure you've read probably the Ron Borges reporting also. The other aspect with Aaron, too, was hallucinogens, too, and getting hooked on them when he got back to Bristol with the Patriots. And some of that, those mind-altering substances that he was on.
Not about it. That could be.
Well.
I don't pretend.
You take mind-altering substances with a brain that's been as damaged as his, and holy cow.
The CTE thing is something I just don't. I mean, I can't hear horror stories about it. I don't know, but obviously something is there. Anyway, back to the football thing. A quick global comment about this, because look, I've been around the horn a few times. You guys have been around. I've seen cheaters. I've seen people come and go. I've seen probationary programs almost get the death penalty, etc. The fact is, you can smell a cheater usually. Spurrier, his reputation being how much he hates it. And I got to say, I don't detect any of that stench around Billy Napier's program. I just don't. And if you look at all just the plain facts, nobody getting killed on a track in a car wreck, which has happened to anybody. You look at that. You look at the situation with him, with no credit card scandals. Remember that one, Fran?
Oh gosh!
Look at that.
That was the end. That was the end of Old Yeller.
Yeah, and then look at the other programs as they struggle. Georgia being the main one. The terrible image they got right now. Who knows what else? And I'm not saying Billy Napier is an angel or the Florida's program is clean as a whistle, but I don't detect. And you guys are good reporters. You've been around, and other people I know have not got the idea that Billy has done it the wrong way. Here's his problem. Maybe some people think they got too many Boy Scouts.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. But and Buddy, to speak to the culture, I think they're coming off highest GPA in school history this past year, which is, commendable in terms of that. And you forget that, people are in school to graduate too in this day and age where everyone seems to be a mercenary. But I think, certainly from the Mullen years, he's cleaned up the culture in that regard too. And obviously, I think that there were some substance abuse issues that he inherited from that issue too, that he's got people to, some people to have help in that regard as well. I think Billy cares about the welfare of these players beyond them as, first and 10 on the football field. And that's commendable. There's something to be said for that for sure as well. And I do think that as far as, the results on the field, they may show. You never know, because I think this year, like I said, the lines of scrimmage are more experienced. They're deeper than they have been in the past. And I think that, and you've got a budding young quarterback in DJ Lagway who appears the worst is behind him with the shoulder. I think that there's going to be good things on the horizon in 2025. I really do.
I don't want to be accused of drinking a Kool-Aid. I know you guys don't. You like to have a modicum of objectivity when it comes to things. But in the next 7-8 minutes. I want you to just dissect the situation. And I realized how nauseating it could be. I'm sure my stepson over there is about to throw up. Hear about how great the Gators are since he's an FSU fan. But anyway, the problem is that I got so nauseated at Texas today. I mean, I went back and I thought, I look, the AD and everybody, oh, Texas is so great. There's so many great. And they're great. And I looked at Florida and thought, well, there's Gainesville's got a few of those things going on right now. And it's the big everything school. I read something today where Florida's the first team to do this, and go to a bowl, whatever. And so let me give you guys a couple of minutes here about all the things about this school and the athletic program and what's happened. What's the one? It can be any sport, any coach, any player, anything. What's the one thing each of you would like to take to the mountain and say, guys, hear me out. You each got 3 minutes. Who wants to go first?
Well, let me tell you, we got 3 minutes here. Let me tell you a story about Texas first, and I'll take it from an entertainer.
You get 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I get 4 minutes here. Okay, so I'll tell you this story. Okay, so one time I met a guy from Texas. He had these big old boots and stuff, and he was telling me all these stories and stuff. So I asked him. I said, take off these boots and stuff. So I reached in the boots, and you want to know what was inside the boots?
A snake.
They were full of crap, just like people from Texas.
There you go.
So yeah, all this Texas hype, Texas system. Look, they have come into the SEC, buddy, and listen, they do have a lot of cachet as an athletic department, but listen, Florida took 2 or 3 in baseball, and they're and look, they beat Florida last year with the Gators were playing their 3rd string quarterback. DJ Lagway wasn't healthy. They're going to be coming to the Swamp this year. It's going to be interesting.
That's going to be wonderful.
It should be a great atmosphere, especially if Florida can take 3 of the first 4 in September, which I think is possible. I think they could split LSU and Miami to start the year, and they'll take possibly take some momentum into that Texas game. So, but I do think with Florida in football in 2025. You got a great leader in Jake Slaughter. You got a budding young quarterback in DJ Lagway. You've got a defense under Ron Roberts that is starting to stabilize a little bit. You've got older, more mature players on both sides of the ball. I think that's going to play very well in the SEC. And Georgia still has Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. Tennessee, who knows what their quarterback situation is going to be. I think this is the year for them to make a move, and it's going to be up to Billy Napier. Certainly, the elephant in the room is going to be the play calling. Can he open it up a little more? But you've got some good receivers and you got some good running backs. You got a good offensive line. I think the pieces are in place for them to make a jump in the SEC standings in 2025. I really believe it.
Well, you didn't even get to the basketball. It's going to be a top 5 team. All the other stuff. Hey, is the golf team staying for the final? I don't even know. I got to stop it. It sounds like Texas here. I don't want to go overboard, but there's so much good stuff going on. I'm going to promise not to drink the Kool-Aid. And if I do drink it, I want you guys to kick my butt, okay? But I really feel better about the football program than I have in a long time. And, of course, who couldn't fall in love with the basketball team? And the softball team is top 4. Baseball team, I love how Sully has coached his team. He's done a phenomenal job of coaching his team. So there's a lot of good stuff. I'll stop. France, your turn. You're up. 3 minutes. Go.
Well, there's a lot to like about Florida athletics. And one of the things I think people have to understand is this. Texas has 35 million people in that state. They have 12 million more people than the state of Florida. So imagine you got Florida plus the state of Georgia. You have 3 major, 3 incredibly major metro areas, and actually 4 when you think of Austin. San Antonio has basically become one city, but you got Dallas, Fort Worth, and then you got Houston, San Antonio. You really have this mega state. They ought to do well. Florida has done extraordinarily well and has done it for a long, long time. Our basketball program's superior to theirs. Our baseball team, they haven't won a baseball championship since 2006. They've never won one in basketball. You could go on and on and on. I don't know if they've ever won a softball championship either. They get smoked by Oklahoma every year.
Yeah.
Of course, so but they have great swimming. I give them that, because they got Eddie Reese when Florida wouldn't hire him. Texas got Eddie Reese, and so anyway, that's another story for another day. But
all right, now you got a minute on your book, and I think Kevin's got one. Kevin got to get out on time tonight, so go ahead and tell us about your book, friends.
Working on it, trying to finish it up. It's going to be about a championship season, and Lord have mercy, what a great championship season it was. These last 12 games, just it was an entire season. Those last 12 games just really defined the program. They defined where Todd Golden has taken them, and it defined how this team matured and became a great team.
A book to be named soon. Kevin, give me some information on yours. Kevin, are you there, Kevin?
Yeah, it is. I thought I lost you there for a second. Yes. Our book is entitled Champions, and it is, on sale for order. And I'm trying to look up where you can order it here, because I have it as a disclaimer on the bottom of my stories.
Well, you can Google it. Google it, you'll be able to find it. I'm sure
so, yes, you can shop this book from the Sun, florida.champs.book.com. That's where you can order it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, guys, great job.
And it's basically,
great to have
a roundup of all our stories.
Right. All right. I think we're having a problem getting Kevin. Kevin, thank you, buddy. Great job tonight. Appreciate your help. All right. All right. Friends, let you go. And now you're going to be writing baseball tomorrow. Is that right? Or softball? I forget.
Softball. Baseball doesn't play till Friday.
Okay. So we'll look for that on Gatorade tonight. The great Franz Beard, he does it all, folks. As they call him, the Iron Duke. That's the Wu-Tang. You were part of that rep group, Wu-Tang. All right. Thank you, Franz. Franz Beard. Let me tell you about our friends who sponsor this program. Among them, one of our very best and one we appreciate. They are expanding in the footprint here in up in North Central Florida. Titan MRI is now Titan MRI and Imaging. They acquired Highfield MRI. Joe Colorio is pronounced it. Started Highfield back in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations to serve you. 2 in Gainesville, was Park Avenue location, and now the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City serving all of Columbia County, and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service as always. If you need a nighttime appointment and you can't make it because of your work schedule, well, they'll give you one at night as well. So you can check that out as something. And also they take insurance now, something that's kind of new. They take insurance, and the convenient self-pay options, you have other ways of paying. So if you're in the market for things like an MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, ultrasounds, etc., they can do it for you. And it's easy schedule with lots of options. So they have larger MRI machines with the patient comfort, no yards, no hospitals. Coming soon to Ocala to better serve the Marion County area. And of course, as I said, 3 others, there's Titan MRI. It's your choice. All right, I want to thank our guys tonight for getting to have Allie on tonight. She has a sick child. We wish her the best. She get over that and take care of that. And all the best to you, Allie. Have her back next week. I'm back from Ocala here. And by the way, just a little information. When you start, we're going to have some Panhandle news every now and then coming up on this show. And some of my friends from the local Gator Club and I have met and talked about it. You'll be picking up some things along the Panhandle, the great city of Panama City, and along the lines of even occasionally even Tallahassee. All that's a big bin. And then we'll get on down all the way out to Pensacola. Lots of stuff happening. It's an amazing part of the country right here. I certainly have enjoyed living here and will enjoy for a long time. So having said that, I wish you all the best. Again, support our advertisers. Meldon Law being one, they're so good. And Jeffrey's such a great guy. And also Titan MRI and Imaging. Check it out. We're back tomorrow night with the Orange and Blue Blood group. We'll catch up more on the softball and the baseball. Keep you informed. We're back now. We're back in the house, and we're glad to be here. Have a great weekend, folks.